China being quite aggressive towards, say, Taiwan. You're seeing Russia being quite aggressive against Ukraine.
The idea of, as I've opened the day today, my vision or my intention as Australian to Australia to be AI sovereign to start with at a bare minimum, and then whatever it takes to be AI sovereign, whether it takes to be able to build chips, GPUs in Australia, to have large data centers, to keep Australian data and compute within our land, to have more power surplus so that we can compute all of it rather than going somewhere else, and then using third-party servers to data centers to compute, and having more water because you don't need to run the production. So whatever it takes, because that will create prosperity for next generation Australians. So that's my very selfish idea of being AI sovereign. But how do you see that yourself as head of defense, being AI sovereign as an idea as national defense and then national resilience?
Thank you. Big question. I guess what we really are, and we've talked a lot about this today, about being in this new era of technology, and we've talked about AI, quantum, cyber, but we've really talked about them as being enablers. But we also sort of, from the lens that I look at it from, is I look these as part of the determinant of our national security, so that sovereignty that you talk about, and also part of global influence. But I'm going to probably step back a little bit and talk more from that geopolitical perspective. We are probably living in a bit more of an uncertain geopolitical world at the moment, which is sometimes I feel quite disappointed about people at times. But if we look around at what's happening in the world, you're seeing the US sort of pull back and become a little bit more focused internally. We're seeing China being quite aggressive towards, say, Taiwan. You're seeing Russia being quite aggressive against Ukraine. And so we're seeing a lot more instability within not just our own region, but globally. And so how does that affect us and our sovereignty? And so we then take an internal look at where Australia has come from. And so in that sort of, if we go back to that, I guess that comes from that post-Cold War era where we thought, let's all become liberalised and we'll all sort of go along happily. But not everybody decided to do that, and that's where these people are sort of starting to pop up and say, no, we want to go down this track. And so that was then when Australia has really taken a really sort of good hard look internally about where our risks are. And what we've realised is we're an island country, and that affords us some really fantastic opportunities in our country, and it's probably one of the best places to live in the world, really. But we've also got a small population, and we've sort of stopped producing stuff. We're very good at digging and shipping, but we don't really produce a lot, which puts a bit of risk there. We also, during that period, sort of stopped investing in sort of defence. We just sort of flatlined our sort of defence spend. Therefore, we haven't been updating our capabilities, whereas others in the global perspective have actually been investing in defence. And you've now seen, I'm going to name China again, actually showing what their capabilities are like. Mm-hmm. And we saw at the beginning of this year, China brought one of their warships around and did a circumnavigation of Australia just to prove what their capability is. And sort of, it was a bit of a sign of intent. Likewise, we look at what's happening in the South China Sea, and we are, and I'll go back to that beautiful island state, but because we don't produce a lot of our own things, a lot of our suppliers come in via those shipping lanes that we rely on coming through those regions. So therefore, we've all of a sudden realised, actually, we're quite at a risk. So that was then when the AUKUS Tri-Nation Security Pact came in between the US, the UK and Australia. And that was looking at two things. One, it was bringing in the acquisition of nuclear-powered submarines into Australia. So that was a big technology transfer. And two, what we called the Pillar 2, which was those technology areas of AI, cyber, automation, undersea capabilities and hypersonics.